Alrighty. Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Week 18 running back rankings live stream for the 2023, technically, fantasy football season. For those of you who are watching this, you are the contingency, perhaps, who are still potentially playing in a Week 18 championship game. Therefore, I am here to try to help to the best of my ability. Over the course of this live stream, of course, if you have any questions regarding any positions, to be honest, ask away. I will be going ahead and presenting my running back rankings, top 36 capacity for Week 18. There's still a lot of information that isn't technically present or public as to some of the teams and whether they're going to be starting their players. Like, we know for a fact that the Baltimore Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers, they've clinched their number one seed. They have no incentive to playing their starters, and quite frankly, they shouldn't, because the risk of injury could end up being something that's very impactful to their future success in the NFL playoffs. Now, there are other teams like the Kansas City Chiefs. They might not go ahead and start their players because, again, I mean, they're going to get a home game regardless. They're going to be playing at Arrowhead. Who they play, that is to be determined, but, There's a lot of teams and there's a lot of potential players out there that may be dealing with an injury, like an Alvin Kamara that could miss, Raheem Mostert could miss, once again, Josh Jacobs, I would anticipate, considering they've been eliminated, should potentially miss. Either way, welcome. Hope you guys are doing well. Happy New Year. For those of you who are just checking in for the first time this season, or this year specifically, I do see a couple of you in the chat. I will answer those questions. A couple things that I wanted to mention before I answer those questions, because I want to throw up the rankings on screen so that we're all on the same page. First and foremost, for those of you who are joining us, click the like button. Greatly appreciate that. Also, if you guys haven't yet already, be sure to check out Underdog Fantasy. Using code Andrew supports the channel greatly. So if you guys haven't yet already, and you guys want my rankings for Week 18, I mean, honestly, I'm going to be here Sunday morning, Saturday afternoon as well, because there are a couple Saturday games answering questions. So if you want to go ahead and sign up potentially to put together pick'em slips or draft teams, do that. Otherwise, the rankings, those will probably be just outright answered, because there aren't that many of you playing in Week 18. And by the time we get to Saturday and Sunday stream, I should be able to answer almost every single question that's sent out. But either way, if you want to go ahead and potentially draft alongside of me later today on the live stream, or potentially put together some pick'em slips, check out the map to the right side of the screen to determine your eligibility. We wanted to go ahead and first and foremost present, the strength of schedule. We have a new number one in terms of the most stats allowed since Week 5 at the running back position in terms of running back rushing statistics. The new number one is the Seattle Seahawks, as they gave up all the points to Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris last week. This only bodes well for the thumbnail of today's episode, James Conner, who has been on a hot streak himself. Yeah, the Seattle Seahawks early in the season, weeks 1 through 4, a completely different defense in terms of run-stop capabilities in comparison to what they've been as of late. Either way, just wanted to go ahead and present these. These are some of the more difficult matchups. We all know the Houston Texans are a disaster. Therefore, Jonathan Taylor, even though he is, a must-start in every single circumstance, it could be a sketchy matchup, but hopefully the overall scheme and his, efforts and talent can surpass that. Either way, just wanted to, go over all that. These are my top 36 rankings as it currently stands. As you guys know, rankings are subject to change. As we get closer to Saturday and Sunday, these rankings will probably change in a couple different positions, primarily because I don't know if we're going to see Isaiah Pacheco play. I would assume that there's a potential he could, but they don't have to play him. They don't technically have to play, Gus Edwards. Therefore, I have Justice Hill on the graphic. They don't have to play, Josh Jacobs. Therefore, I have Zamir White within the overall graphic. Hopefully, all this is understood. Let me get to answering questions, shall we? So, Jake was the first question in the live chat. Jake, welcome. Hope you're doing well. Jake says, pick 2, Rachaad White, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, Zamir White. So, if I'm in a position in which, regardless of who's playing actually, I wouldn't say regardless of who's playing. If Josh Jacobs decides to play this week, against Denver, of all teams on top of it, who are not great in terms of stopping the run, I'd feel pretty confident with Josh Jacobs. That being said, I don't think he's going to play. So if it's between Rachaad White, Jonathan Taylor, Zamir White in a half PPR scoring format, which is, what the rankings currently stand at on the right side of the screen, I would go with Rachaad White and Jonathan Taylor. I don't know what your current scoring format is, Jake, but that's the way I would approach it. Even if it's a full PPR, Zamir White's not going to get himself a high volume of targets in that capacity in comparison to Jonathan Taylor, to where he would, have him be the better option. So for right now, yeah, Rachaad White, Jonathan Taylor. Rachaad White going against Carolina is as good as it possibly gets in terms of matchups. Definitely top 5 in that current capacity. Manny in the chat was asking Rachaad White or Taylor just straight up. Yeah, I would continue with Rachaad White. I know that last week's overall performance was quite disappointing against the New Orleans Saints, especially considering all of the, and that matchup in itself pretty much could, determine the entire division, unfortunately, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And losing that game is rough. But prior to last week's game in Week 17, he's been on fire. I mean, he really has been one of the best backs in fantasy football. That's why he's top 5 overall right now. He continues to score at a high capacity, even though he didn't get himself in the end zone. And even though he wasn't able to get himself a high overall usage of overall rushing attempts, primarily because they were down early in that game. I think the matchup against Carolina, just like Travis Etienne took advantage of it last week, should be one in which he's able to score himself 15 to 20 plus points. Jeremy Williams in the chat says, Geno, Lamar, or Purdy. I'm under the assumption, Jeremy, that both Purdy and Lamar are either not going to play or going to be in a situation in which they play for maybe at most the first half and then they're benched in the second half. So I'd much rather just play Geno Smith against the Arizona Cardinals secondary because the Seattle Seahawks are still fighting for a playoff position, in comparison to Lamar and Purdy, who have already solidified their playoff, hopes. They are the number ones of their both, individual divisions. And we're probably going to be in a scenario in which, of course, they don't play past the first half. Let's see here. Lion King in the chat says, I'm down 55 coming into this week, and my opponent has the guy on the thumbnail. Things are looking good. Yeah, this is if your opponent has James Conner, he's probably going to drop 20 points on you. So anticipate that. From what we've witnessed from James Conner over the course of the last 4 games in itself, and then on top of it, now he has the best matchup at the running back position against the division rival, and the Arizona Cardinals have the opportunity to play upset special to the Seattle Seahawks, who are trying to get into the playoffs with a victory. That's gonna be an interesting scenario there, King. E Elements says, Andrew, just wanted to give you a massive thank you. I won my championship with your guidance throughout the year. Congratulations, Elements. That's fantastic to hear. Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys, keeping me informed in terms of the tabs. I'd actually just want to know, who did you have on your team? If you want a chip, who was the main contributor that, whether it was you drafted them later on, whether it was someone you picked up off waivers, who was the main catalyst to helping you capture it? Let's see here. THN LSN. So I'm just going to call you Thin Lesson. Says, I hate that my work league has a championship in week 18. Yeah. So for those of you who are watching this, who have a week 18 championship, try to, if you can, next season, get that, fixed to the best of your ability. Week 18 championships hurt. I mean, there's a reason why over here, we have Elijah Mitchell sitting there at number 19, and we don't have a Christian McCaffrey on screen who would be sitting there by himself in the S tier. It's because, again, first and foremost, yes, he's dealing with a little bit of a calf strain, but I can guarantee you, if the San Francisco 49ers were in a, win or go home scenario, he would be playing this week most likely. But yeah, considering he doesn't have to play, they won't make him, and they aren't. Howard Mighty says, Kyron is playing the whole game, ? I have no clue. So technically, this is my thought process. So when I look at the entire NFL playoff picture and standings, there is technically a chance in which, if in fact the Green Bay Packers win and the Los Angeles Rams lose, the Green Bay Packers would be 9-8, and so would the Los Angeles Rams. And therefore, the Los Angeles Rams would be dropped a seed because the Green Bay Packers have the head-to-head tiebreaker. Now, that all being said, the LA Rams do not have to play their starters, primarily because they are guaranteed a playoff spot, just like the Kansas City Chiefs, just like the Cleveland Browns. So I don't know if they want the higher seed. I don't know if they care for it. There's a possibility in which Kyren Williams doesn't even play. There's a possibility as well on top of that. Kyren Williams sits at number 1. Devon Achane sits at number 6. There's no guarantee that Devon Achane's there by the end of the week because maybe Mostert plays. Or maybe they just, say, all right, Mostert's out. We're not going to even worry about winning this game, and we'll just throw Achane out there. We don't know. There's a lot of circumstances here that are unknown, but if Kyren and the boys are being fired up, I would assume that they're going to try to win that game in order to ensure that they have the higher seed so that maybe they can play the Detroit Lions if that's what they want to do. Otherwise, they can lose and then go to Dallas if they want to take on them, because that's pretty much the That's the question that they have to answer as a coaching staff and as a team. Like, do we want to go to Dallas or do we want to go to Detroit? Because that's pretty much the determining factor as to whether or not they win or lose against the San Francisco 49ers. Let's see here. I mean, technically, they don't need Kyron to play the whole game in order for them to beat the 49ers if the 49ers aren't going to start their main guys, but you never know. Let's see here. Lion King says, would you rather do Singletary or Henry in a non-PPR? I would... That's a good question. The thing about Derrick Henry is I would assume he'd be, significantly better considering he's not playing against Houston, because Houston's literally been the kryptonite for him as of late. Jacksonville is a pretty good run stopping defense on top of that, so it is a little sketchy. Would I prefer Singletary over in a standard? I think I'd probably lean towards Henry in a standard, Singletary in a half PPR, full PPR. That's probably the direction I would go in regards to those two. David in the chat says, struggling to decide between Achane and Diggs in a full PPR. Appreciate all the hard work. Yeah, at this point, I don't think I can ever suggest Diggs for the remainder of the season. I think what he's done to our teams as of late pretty much has earned him a bench spot. I think that's where I'm at right now. And considering we're in week 18, I think, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 5 times in a row, shame on me. I think I'm going to stop playing you after a while. So I would probably fire up Achane. Even if Raheem Mostert's active, I would probably fire up Achane in that circumstance. John Silva in the chat says, Mahomes, Fields, or Murray? Half PPR. Mahomes may not even play, or maybe like I'm going to play in the first half and then sit in the second half because they don't technically need to win. Now, that being said, if in fact, the NFL gets a little wonky, the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills tie a game, there could be a conversation in which potentially the Kansas City Chiefs, goodness gracious, the Kansas City thank you. Sorry about that. The Kansas City Chiefs may in fact get into a situation where perhaps they're the number 2 seed, but I would assume that Mahomes doesn't play. So if it's between Fields and Murray, I'd like to play Fields in a potential upset special game against Green Bay. Fields in that Bears offense has looked pretty good as of late, and I think I'd want to fire them up. I think Murray, late game antics in the second half really did help him for fantasy purposes. A lot of garbage time there could end up happening once again, but I do like the upside that Fields presents with the rushing upside there. Steven says a question in the chat, says, Week 18 championship. I'm down 35 currently in a full PPR. I need 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a singular flex. Okay, cool. That sounds good. So of the available options you have White, Breece Hall, Barkley, Singletary, Swift, Jefferson, St. Brown, Ayuk, Nico Collins. Okay, so when I look at this as a whole, right, Steven or Stefan, immediately I look at Ayuk and I think he's probably not going to play. And even if he does, he's not going to play for long. So the wide receivers that I'd probably go with are Jefferson and St. Brown. Actually, it depends. If Nick Mullins is starting, sure, I would probably go with Jefferson. If it's not, then I would just play. I would just at that point play Nico Collins with St. Brown. If they're going to run Jared Hall out there again, it's a disaster. But I don't think they will. I think they'll probably. If I had to guess, it'll probably be Nick Mullins. So Jefferson and St. Brown are great plays. Boom, 1 and 2. As for running backs, I'm going with Rashad White and Breece Hall. They've been on fire more often than not as of late. And as for your singular flex in a full PPR, for me, at that point, it's just between Barkley and Nico Collins. And honestly, I think I trust Nico Collins a little bit more in a full PPR capacity. So that's probably the direction that I go in. I end up playing like White, Hall, Jefferson, St. Brown, and Collins. Robert Martin says, do you do anything for Dynasty on the channel? No. I don't do any Dynasty content. We could in the future, but as of right now, no. And honestly, I would probably even blatantly just tell you, and I will right now, if you're looking for Dynasty content, I guarantee you there are just better people that will produce better content and who will be a little bit more in tune with it, considering I don't put in a lot of time for it. I'm mainly just like a redraft kind of guy. Can't Get Right says, Week 18 championship, full PPR. Who would you start? Achane, Jonathan Taylor, or Bijan Robinson? As it currently stands, in a full PPR, Look, okay, I like Bijan's matchup a lot against the New Orleans Saints. And last time out against the New Orleans Saints, dude had 2 touchdowns, over 90 rushing yards, had himself a lot of receiving work. I would say that if it's in a full PPR, and by the time we get to Sunday, yeah, I probably end up just playing Bijan Robinson there. Um, I I have a feeling that Raheem Mostert probably plays this week, even though I don't have him ranked on screen. I have a feeling that he probably plays and he probably knocks down Devon Achane a little bit. So for right now, I'd say Bijan is the guy that I'd like to play there. Um, if Mostert doesn't end up playing, I wouldn't mind you playing Devon Achane ahead of Bijan, especially considering how disappointing Bijan's been as of late. But I think the matchup in itself and the volume opportunity. Actually, you know what? If in fact we're in a scenario in which Raheem Mostert is inactive and we're in a full PPR, I would play Achane over Bijan. I'll change my mind on that. Fluid rankings. But it has to be Raheem Mostert out. And Tua has to be active. Otherwise, I don't want any piece of it. All right, let's see here. What do we have here? Howard Mighty says, do you trust Gibbs to play the whole game? Yeah, I don't see why not. There is a chance that if in fact the Cowboys lose, the Lions technically would be in line for the number. Yeah, they'd be the number 2 seed, and they'd be able to get a home game for what, 3 weeks at least 2 weeks in a row. So I think they would want to do that. So I'm assuming that they're going to try to beat the Minnesota Vikings just like they did a couple weeks back. Robert Martin says, lost my championship. My big guys let me down. McCaffrey, Gibbs, Olave, plus being on my 5th starting quarterback. Yeah, McCaffrey unfortunately leaves the game last week, gets his ankle taped, and while he's on the sideline, Elijah Mitchell scores a rushing touchdown. Gibbs had 2 opportunities on the goal line, wasn't able to find himself in the end zone. A lot of opportunities in which he just gets tackled in the backfield. That offensive line play from Detroit last week wasn't great. And then Olave, yeah, for the second time in a row this season, disappears against Tampa Bay, even though it's a really good matchup. AJ Wright had sent in a super chat. Thank you, AJ Wright. Says, Mr. Kirchhoff, I won my league. Was on the fence trading away Chase for Lamb and Eckler, and you put me over making the deal. I don't remember it, but congratulations. Yeah, the fact that you were able to haul in Lamb there, that wins you the league. And at the time, I probably was telling you to make the trade just because it's like, would I rather have 2 first-round picks or 1? And getting Lamb and Eckler at the time was probably a good look. Eckler, obviously, as late hasn't been great, but Lamb 40-point bombs, pretty consistently as late is as good as it gets. Justin says Elijah Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell's number 19 on the screen. Kamara not playing? I don't know. He left last week's game with an ankle injury. So if I was to assume there's a potential in which, yeah, if I was to assume there's a potential in which he plays or doesn't play, there's a chance he doesn't. So that's why I have Jamal Williams at 20 as of right now. If Kamara, by the time we get to Saturday, Sunday, practices fully and is suiting up, great. He'll be a top 50, probably a top 20 running back. I'm not going to say top 15 just yet. I think I like these other running backs more as of right now. But yeah, he'd be in that conversation. Texas Red said, I lost my championship starting Pollard over Connor. Screwed me, unfortunately. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, that is actually tough. Pollard, I mean, yeah. Pollard's probably one of the worst picks this season, especially considering how volatile he's been. Like, what did he end up finishing in a half PPR in 17 weeks? Let's see here. 17 weeks, running back, half PPR. Pollard ends up finishing as RB 18. And I had him as like a top, 8 running back? Top 7 running back? I mean, geez, man. Who would have guessed that a part of one of the best offenses in the NFL, in such a high-scoring offense, you'd have a running back that completely just does nothing. It's insane, especially considering he was better last year when Zeke had scored 12 rushing touchdowns. It's insane. Element says, for my championship game, my top scorers were Lamar Jackson, CeeDee Lamb, Breece Hall. Here we go. That's what I was looking for, Elements. I was wondering who the guys were that led you to the promised land. And it feels like there's so many CeeDee Lamb, Breece Hall combo teams this year that were like you had them both in the same team, and throughout the fantasy playoffs, I mean, they just went ham. They just were unstoppable. So Congrats. That's quite the squad there. 192 points and a half PPR is ridiculous in a one quarterback league. Ridiculous. Let's see here. Question that came in from Landers, who says Murray, Goff, Flacco, or Mayfield. I don't know if Flacco plays. I'm going to assume that he probably doesn't. So if it's between Murray, Goff, and Mayfield, I probably end up playing Murray in that circumstance. Just for the slight rushing upside in that scenario. Donovan Daniels says T-Law, Carr, Flacco, or Minshew. Yeah, I'm going to stay on the same thing, in which regardless of whether or not the Cleveland Browns win, they're going to be the number one wild card team on the AFC side of the bracket. So they're probably not going to start their main guys. Therefore, there's the reason why I don't have Jerome Ford and or Kareem Hunt on today's rankings. I have Pierre Strong at number 32. So I would assume if Flacco probably, maybe plays early, then gets pulled by the time we finish the first quarter or first half, the best play of the bunch, do I play Carr against Atlanta? T-Law versus, it's probably T-Law versus Tennessee. Yeah, that's probably what I would go with. I probably end up playing Trevor Lawrence there. If he's healthy, of course. If he's not, then I would just pivot to playing Carr. James Newton says bets this week. What kind? In regards to Underdog Pick'ems? We can go ahead and check those out in a minute. Justin keeps spamming Eli Mitchell ? Like 10 times over. Justin, it's literally on screen. It's right there, number 19. Look, it's right there, my man. All right, let's see here. Where are we at? So, okay, we took care of that. We have a super chat that was sent in from Chris Owens, who says, do you think Derrick Henry and Tyjae Spears are going to share 50-50 with touches this next week? I doubt it. I think this is going to be the final game of Derrick Henry's Titans career. I'm sure he'll probably end up somewhere else next year as like a, RB that could potentially contribute to a team. I don't know where he's going to end up, but I don't think that the Tennessee Titans are going to pay him again. Therefore, I think they're just going to get him. They're going to try to get Derrick Henry 20 touches again and try to let him, go off. Now, the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to do everything in their power because they are still on the fringe as to whether or not they make the playoffs, and they're going to try to pour it on. But as of right now, I would assume that it's going to be heavily favored in Derrick Henry's favor. John Silva says, really debating how to choose my lineup in a championship and a half PPR, starting Fields, Bijan, Montgomery, Tyreek, DJ Moore, McBride, and Pickens at the flex. Bench consists of Ferguson, Addison, and Kamara. I think your lineup is perfectly good to go. I wouldn't change anything. Yeah, as of late, Pickens has gotten himself... Dude, Pickens has more... If I'm not mistaken, the crazy stat that I saw on Twitter earlier today. Let me see if I can find it. Where's Pickens? So, George Pickens, in a half PPR scoring format, has literally more fantasy points than Chris Olave this season. Can you imagine? Now, I understand Chris Olave's played one less game, but that is just a ridiculous number. The fact that George Pickens can do nothing all season long, have 4 good games, and that's all it takes. And he's wide receiver number 20 at the end of the year. What a ridiculous turn of events. But as of late, been good with Mason Rudolph for sure. Travis says, Nico Pittman and DJ Moore. Need to pick 2 in a standard scoring league. I'm down 9. Thanks, bro. No problem, Travis. Okay, so of the available options, considering it's a standard league, I probably go Nico Collins and DJ Moore. More touchdown upside, more yardage upside. Pittman is really just a reception monster. Sergio says, can you break down the C tier? Can I break down the C tier? I'm not at length, but I mean, I could go ahead and give you like brief spark notes on it, I guess, per se. So here's the thing. DeAndre Swift, I understand he had a lackluster performance last week, but they play against the New York Giants just a week ago. He goes for, what was it? I think it was over 16 fantasy points. I think he had like a touchdown and like 90 some odd yards on the ground. Pretty good overall week. Now, DeAndre Swift, excuse me, still sick. Trying to combat it. Man, I've been sick for like 2 weeks. It's crazy. DeAndre Swift hasn't had himself any consistent receiving work in like 6-7 weeks. So it's really just a matter of rushing yardage and rushing upside there. It's a great matchup against the Giants. Everyone finds success on the ground against them. So Swift should be a pretty solid play. Ezekiel Elliott He continues, I think in the last 4 games without Ramondre Stevenson, he scored a touchdown in 3 of them. I understand that this last week didn't get much receiving utilization within the overall offense, but played against the Jets can't stop anybody defensively, especially, I mean, you saw what Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt were able to do last week. I think Zeke is in a pretty good spot this week in terms of his overall usage and opportunity share. Zamir White taking on Denver. Again, that's a great matchup. They're allowing over 5 yards per carry, and he's been able to get double-digit fantasy points in each of the last 3 games. David Montgomery is always in line to potentially score a touchdown, but also always get himself a high volume of touches, probably somewhere between 15 to 20 every week. So whenever you play against Minnesota, who just a couple weeks back, he put up over, I think it was 14 fantasy points and a half PPR against. Pretty solid play. Khalil Herbert has been unstoppable as of late. And so has Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones and Khalil Herbert, each of them, back-to-back weeks of over 100 rushing yards. They play each other this week. The more difficult matchup is running against the Bears defense, but considering Aaron Jones has that sprinkle of receiving upside and A.J. Dillon is really probably not going to play this week, and even if he does, he plays maybe 5 to 10 snaps. Khalil Herbert with Deontay Foreman going from, being, the primary guy to being a healthy scratch, and then his performances over the course of the last 2 weeks. These are guys that I just have a very difficult time not starting based on their overall contributions as of late. Hopefully that helps in terms of a breakdown. Let's see here. Dr. Gibbs, 21, says, I have a 35-point lead. Thanks to your help. I have Breece Hall, Jonathan Taylor, Devin Singletary, Khalil Herbert, Kyron Williams. In a full PPR, I need 3 of them. So under the assumption that the Rams are going to be a full go by the time we get to Sunday, and we'll have an indication of whether that's the truth or not. They're going to point blank ask McVay, and we'll get to a point. We'll get to a point of understanding once we get later in the week. But I would want to play Kyron Williams, Breece Hall, and probably Jonathan Taylor. Now, if Kyron Williams is an inactive potential player, or maybe we have an indication that they're only going to play them for the first half and then he's going to sit in the second half, then at that point you would just play Breece Hall, Jonathan Taylor, and Khalil Herbert very comfortably. And then also your second question there, Dr. Gibbs, was Josh Allen or Fields. Josh Allen is going to be playing, and Josh Allen's had himself a lot of success. Besides the fact that they blew out the Miami Dolphins earlier this year, when I was doing the research earlier this season, I think it was week 3 or 4 when they took on Miami, anytime Josh Allen has taken on a Vic Fangio defense, as in Vic Fangio being the defensive coordinator, he has put up like 30 fantasy points every game, dude. So I think he'll be fine in the matchup, and he'll probably have himself a solid day. So yeah, you want to fire up Josh Allen, who is still fighting to try to win the division if they can beat the Miami Dolphins this week. Let's see here. Jake had said, thanks a lot. I'm up 50 going into week 18 championship. You've been a huge help. Thank you very much. Thoughts on Rachaad White draft capital next year? I think it's going to depend on whether they bring in someone. I think there's a chance that they could. Obviously, he's demonstrated that he can be the lone back of this backfield. But as it currently stands, we'll have to see how it kind of turns out. As of right now, considering his rushing usage, if this offensive line gets any improvements, which they probably will, obviously they didn't have Ryan Jensen this season. They'll probably have to, obviously Jensen will be off the books in terms of his overall financials because he'll have retired and everything. So I'm thinking with offensive line improvements, if he's still the lone back and there's nobody else contesting him, he's going to be in the top 12 conversation for sure, without a doubt. He's gotten a lot more opportunity. Like, I was a truther this offseason of Rachaad White. I said, hey, he's going to be a top 24 running back, probably closer to number 24. But in no reality did I expect him to get the volume of rushing attempts that he got this season. It's pretty crazy. Let's see here. Smitty says, I'm lucky that I won with Pollard, LMAO. Yeah, if you won with Pollard, you are truly lucky, truly. Travis says, Kyler or Jordan Love? At this point, considering how well Jordan Love has been playing, I would go with Jordan Love. Sergio says, do you think Lamb is going to play the full game? Yes, because they need to win that game in order to ensure that they don't lose the division. Because if they lose, so as it currently stands in the NFL bracket, right, the Dallas Cowboys are 11-5, or so are the Philadelphia Eagles. So if in fact the Dallas Cowboys lose this week and the Eagles win the division, they get the home game, and the Dallas Cowboys are traveling to Detroit they will probably be traveling to Tampa Bay in week 1's matchup. They will not have a home game for the entire playoffs if they lose this week to Washington. So yes, CeeDee Lamb will play the whole game, assuming, by the time he probably will sit in the fourth quarter because he'll have put up 150 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns by the time we got there. But yes, he's going to play, to answer your question. Mo G in the chat just said Jaden Reed. Yeah, Jaden Reed. What an absolute legend, right? What an absolute legend. Fom says Andrew W. Thank you very much. Vincent says keeper for next year, JJ or Lamb. Thanks. Depends who's playing quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. If they draft a quarterback, if they sign somebody that's not Kirk Cousins, I think that kind of goes into the entire conversation. So we'll wait and see on that. But I think as of right now, the number 1 and number 2 receivers in Dynasty are JJ and Lamb, and I think it goes in that order still. Is Kyron playing? Missed the start. I have no clue if he's playing. I just have him there just in case. Just Love Hall just sent in a super chat, says, won 2 leagues, never got to my questions, but I always tuned in. Appreciate it nonetheless. See you next season. Thanks for your service. Thank you, Just. Appreciate it. Yeah, listen, on Sunday mornings, on Saturday afternoons, there are so many of, there usually, there's like 100 people in here right now. Usually, when we're in, Sunday morning, Saturday afternoon, we're either between 500 to 1,000, 1,200 people in here, right? And everyone's boom, 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 going. So, apologies for not being able to get to your questions, but hey, you won 2 leagues. So I mean, something got to you. So some information got to you at some point, right? I appreciate it, Just. Thank you. Luis Alcantara says, I won my chip, but I'm here because I can't get enough of fantasy football. Thank you, Luis. Congratulations on winning the chip. Mo says, who's going to throw to JJ? Yeah, exactly. That's exactly my thought process. James Conner is back. James Conner is back, but is he going to be back in Arizona next year? I think that's the real question. If I look at his, let's see, James Conner. Let me see what his contract looks like as it currently stands. James Conner, so they technically have the potential to opt out of his contract going into 2024 because it's a 2-year with a 4-year potential extent. Actually, no, it's a 2-year with a 30-year potential extension. So if they want to clear the books, they could, but his cap hit next year is not even that much. It's only $8.5 million. Like, if they want to and they want to clear house, they could, but he's been playing well, man. So let's hope he stays in Arizona because he's been cooking. But they're going to probably draft another running back, so we'll have to see. Toledo says on ESPN, they have Mahomes at 4 projected points. Should I start a guy like Slick over him? Stick. Sorry, not Slick. Easton Stick. Yeah, I think Mahomes probably doesn't play past like the first half. So I think that's probably why they have him projected at 4 points. There's a reason why I don't have Pacheco on screen is because I don't even expect him to play. Or if he does play, he doesn't play that much, and it's going to be a Clyde Edwards second half kind of deal. So probably. Let's see here. CK Dine says Tony Pollard cannot be trusted. Yeah, not anymore. I'm curious to see who the Dallas Cowboys bring in this offseason at running back. John Silva says, thanks so much for your help. Been in first place all season with your help. Do you think the 49ers will sit their defensive starters? If so, the Jets defense is going to be a good pickup. The Jets defense should be a great play this weekend. If the Jets are somehow still available in your league as a defense, yes, pick them up, please and thank you. But I don't think that the 49ers, they probably start their defenders, but they don't play them past the first half. I don't think that's smart of them to do. Like, if you guys remember last year, the Los Angeles Chargers were guaranteed an away game because obviously the Chiefs had won the division with the number 1 seed of the AFC last year. So going into week 18, we assumed that the Chargers were not going to start their starters, and yet they did. They started all their guys, and Mike Williams in that game against Denver, week 18 of last year, he had a back injury, and he didn't play in the wild card round, and they lost to the Jaguars. Like, I'm assuming teams are going to be very cautious, especially when they have a playoff berth already guaranteed, that they're not going to be, running their guys out there and, potentially getting themselves injured. Robert Christensen says, I need 4. K-Will, Gibbs, Bijan, Montgomery, Connor, Kamara, Connor again, Singletary, Superflex, IDP championship, 3rd-time championship. Okay, here we go. So, of the potential options you have, if K-Will plays, great. I would fire him up, but we'll keep that monitored as the week progresses. I think James Conner, that's number 2. Bijan's number 3, and probably Gibbs number 4. K-Will, Gibbs, Bijan, Connor. If in fact K-Will doesn't play, you play Montgomery instead of him. That's the way that I would go about it, Robert. SC says, aloha. Thank you for going to week 18. I want to thank you for all your hard work. Yeah, no problem. Listen, I know that many of you guys, I don't know if you guys enjoy playing a week 18 or if you've been subjected to it. Either way, I'm here to help. That's the whole point, right? I'm trying to help win as many championships as possible because it gives me as much satisfaction as, you know, when you guys win, you may feel like a sense of joy. I feel an even greater sense of joy when you guys win. So, no problem. No apology necessary. Keep grinding, keep going, man. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Love Hall. Lion Kang says CeeDee Lamb and Connor killed me last week. They're gonna do it again. Yeah, they probably will. I need Josh Allen and AJ Brown 30 bombs. I don't think AJ Brown is capable of doing that against the Giants, to be honest. The offense for the Philadelphia Eagles, their passing offense, has really just, I don't know, man. It's like their growth has been stunted as of late. It's weird. Let's see. Robert Christensen had said, in my league, I play 3 QBs and only allowed my backups. I have Hurts, Mariota, Purdy, Darnold, Fields, and Herbert. Stick. I need 3 quarterbacks. I mean, Jalen Hurts is going to play this week, so you fire him up. Fields is going to play this week, so you fire him up. As for Purdy, Darnold, I don't think I play either of them because they probably each play one half of the game. Purdy could throw 2 touchdowns in the first half. It's possible, but I'd probably just rather play Easton Stick at that point. Why is my brain lagging? They play against Kansas City. Oh, that's even worse. Yeah, you know what? I might consider, hear me out, if the Kansas City Chiefs don't start their primaries, Robert, then at that point I'll play Easton Stick. Otherwise, I'm just going to play Purdy and hope he scores 2 touchdowns in the first half and then he's out. Regan sent in a question, said Murray, Mayfield, or Stafford. I don't know if, look, okay, so the Rams are still in question. So if it's between Mayfield and Murray, I'd rather play Murray there. Steelers 12 says, Andrew, just wanted to say thank you. I went from 11-3 and won regular season and then went to the chip and won my championship. Congratulations. So you completed the entire, the entire goal. You won the regular season and then you won the championship. That's a double whammy. Congratulations. Can't Get Right says, what defense would you start, Patriots or Jets? I prefer to play the Jets defense. Yeah, I prefer to play the Jets. Especially considering if, in fact, the Patriots lose this week, they have a chance to get the number 2 overall pick and jump the Washington Commanders in that scenario. So I think the Patriots might be looking maybe not to have the best game in order to try to get the number 2 overall pick and get a quarterback. Maybe Michael Penix Jr. We'll see. Howard Mighty said, is Mixon playing the whole game? There's no guarantee of that, right? They're obviously eliminated, and there's obviously a potential in which Chase Brown could get himself more utilization. I would assume that Joe Mixon is going to play to try to get some sort of incentives. I don't know how close he is to his overall financial incentives in terms of yardages or touchdowns or stuff like that, but as of right now, I would assume he may play. And even if he does, I don't expect him to do well against Cleveland unless Cleveland pulls their whole defense, which is possible, but we'll have to wait and see. Just don't love him as a player outright this week. Chase Hart says, in order, Barkley, Hall, Kamara, and ETN. What's your scoring format, my man? I mean, if we're just talking about straight up half PPR, the rankings are to the right side of the screen, right? So I would take him Hall number 1, ETN 2, Barkley 3, Kamara 4. Even if Kamara plays, he's dealing with an ankle injury, and I don't love that, so he's my lowest ranked. RG Webb says, Rams have nothing to play for this weekend. Can't understand why they'd play Kyron. The only thing that they would technically play for is just a higher seeding. That's it. Because if they lose, they technically have a lower seed because the Green Bay Packers, if in fact they win, have the head-to-head tiebreaker against one another. So, yes, the Rams are going to make the playoffs regardless, but there is a potential in which they could have a lower seed. So that's the only incentive that they technically have. I don't know if they would want to play that either way. But again, that's why these rankings are malleable. They're subject to change because you never know. By the time we get to Friday, McVay could come out and say, yeah, Stafford's not playing. So if Stafford's not playing, I would know for a fact at that point, we're not firing up anybody in this offense. Let's see here. Robert Christensen says, I went 14-1. It's crazy. Yeah, that is crazy. 14. Yeah, you went 14-1. That's why you play in week 18 because your championship is 16, 17, 18. Yeah, makes sense. Dr. Gibbs says, do you think ETN keeps rolling against Tennessee? That looked horrible last week. Yeah, I mean, the Tennessee Titans as a defense are awful this season. So I have no problem firing up ETN. I would assume he continues to roll. Abide Los Angeles says, "Hi, Andrew. Thanks for all the help this year. In my last week, do you think Brees Hall, Kyron Williams, or Connor will be rested or limited at all?" The only player, technically, that has the potential of being rested or limited is Kyron, because they have already guaranteed that they're going to be in the NFL playoffs. The other two, I think Brees Hall and James Conner, are just going to play just to play in order to get their game checks. So they're going to go, and honestly, considering how well both of them have been playing, the way it works is in the NFL, if you're going to suit up and you're going to play, in every single scenario that you suit up, you have to play your absolute best because it's going to be on film. And whether you're going to be on the same team next year or whether you're a free agent the following year, someone's going to be watching that film and wondering, hey, do we still want this guy, or do we want to trade for this guy, or do we want to sign this guy? So every time you go out, it's going on your resume. So I would assume that if the Jets are playing and the Arizona Cardinals are playing, both these guys are going to be fired up and are going to be putting up a pretty hefty amount of fantasy points in our favor. Michael Gill in the chat said, PPR quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, tight end and a flex. Hurts, Stafford, Stroud, Achane, Gibbs, Pollard, White, Evans, DK, Puka, Rice, and Reed. Okay, and we have Laporta and Kelsey. Thanks. So I'm going to assume that Kelsey doesn't play very much. Even if he does, I probably just play Laporta over him because the Lions are in a position where they're trying to maybe get the number 2 seed. So I probably play Laporta at tight end there, Michael Gill. As for your wide receivers, I don't expect Reed to play because he's dealing with that injury, didn't return from the game. Evans will play, so I'll fire him up. I'd probably also play DK alongside it. Yeah, so as of right now, of the 5 wide receivers you have, Michael Gill, Puka's questionable, Rice is questionable, and so is Reed. We have no clue whether those 3 guys are even going to play. We know for a fact as of right now that DK and Evans are still fighting for playoff positioning, so those 2 are going to be guys that are going to be probably going and should be started. As for your running backs, Achane, Gibbs, Pollard, and White, Achane, those are the 2 that I think I like the most. I probably end up flexing Pollard or Gibbs there, and then quarterback between Stafford and Stroud. Again, considering Stafford, actually you have Hurts as well. You play Hurts there. That's not even a problem. George in the chat says, "Hi Andrew. I have Hall, Kyron, Rashad White, Zamir White, and Javonte Williams. Considering sitting Kyron Williams due to him maybe being limited, yeah, that's not a problem. I don't have a problem with that at all. I need 3. What do you think? Yeah, that's not a problem. Again, by the time we get later in the week, we'll have a better indication. Again, it's only Tuesday, right? So we're going to get practice reports. We're going to get more information from the coaching staff. And by the time we get there, if Kyron's limited in any sort of capacity, absolutely rather play White, Hall, and probably Zamir. Sorry, Rashad, Zamir, and Hall. Let's see here. Chase Hart says, I'm going to PPR. Okay, got it. So yeah, I would probably keep it as such still. I'd keep it as Hall, ETN, and Barkley as the 3 that I would play there, Chase. Unless anything changes, those are the 3 that I like the most. All right, let's see here. John Silva says, will you do kicker rankings later this week? Yeah, I'll have it on Sunday. Actually, probably Saturday and Sunday. I'll have kicker and defense rankings available. Just have to wait and see how the weather looks. That's typically the main detractor of potential kicker upside. Puka is probably going to play. Yes, he probably is because he wants to go for his record. You're right. You're absolutely correct. But again, we got it. I mean, he can play, but is Stafford going to play? Can they get it done in the first half? That's all. Those are the questions. LJ says, "Let's go, Andrew. I commissioned 2 leagues, and it's sad having to pay the winners and me not being one. But still hope for me in Week 18 championship. Yeah, that is always that's always rough. That's always rough. Whenever you're the commissioner, but look, here's the thing: it's not all your money, right? You collected the whole pool. You got to pay it out sometimes. It's fun though, man. I feel like a league is only competitive when someone else is winning every year. Now, you can be like the most winningest team in that league's history, but if the same person's winning every year, it just feels like it's not as competitive. It's fun when somebody else, at the top of the mountain. Abide Los Angeles says, thanks for all your help. No problem. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. What's your live stream schedule this week? I'm going to be live streaming every single day. Probably, I would venture to say the next, let's see, Wednesday will be tomorrow, will be wide receivers. Thursday, Friday will be probably Thursday tight ends, Friday quarterbacks, Saturday. As it currently stands, the NFL Week 18. When is the first game on Saturday? First game on Saturday starts at 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So I'll probably be here like an hour and a half beforehand. So I'll probably be here at noon PST on Saturday. And then on Sunday morning, I'll be here at 8 a.m. streaming for 2 hours then. So that's my streaming schedule for this week. Lou says, what's up, GOAT? How many chips did you win, not including us? Yeah, but look, those are the only chips that matter. You know what I mean? Your guys' chips are literally the only ones that matter. Like, I feel like I have, like, yeah, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, even though I technically didn't set the lineups and technically I didn't do anything besides just give you my suggestions, those are the most important chips every single year. So if you won one, Lou, hey, that makes me even happier. LJ had said, yeah, I'm still up on the year out of all my leagues, so I can't be mad. Yeah, I mean, as long as you're up. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's technically all that matters, technically. Somebody earlier was asking about potential plays for this week. Let me see. Let me go to Underdog real quick. I'm going to transition the graphic on screen just really quickly. We'll be back in a second. Look, as it currently stands, like on Underdog right now, they don't really have all the numbers set. Everything is like kind of, it's basic at this point. Like, there are numbers that I like here. Don't get me wrong. There are numbers that I actually really like here. But, like, I want to take Josh Allen's rushing touchdown. Like, he keeps doing it. Every single week, this guy scores a rushing touchdown. So if they have the play, I'm going to wait and I'll take that. You know, like, I'm not going to jump at anything as of yet. Like, there's, yeah, nothing here is, like, expansive. Once we get to, like, targets or receptions and all that kind of jazz, that's when I'll be more intrigued to potentially bite in on some of these. Like, I like the idea of 67.5 rushing yards, but I'd probably just wait and see what his rushing attempt total is, and then I'll kind of make a play on that. Man, this is a good number. CeeDee Lamb over 100. I'd probably just take his anytime touchdown because he's done it for, I think he scored a touchdown in 10 straight weeks. I mean, that's just, it's insane. But anyway, let's go back really quickly. I'll wait on talking about, you know, potential pick and plays as the week kind of progresses, and those kind of start to come out slowly but surely. Chris had said, won my championship. Thanks for all the great videos, Andrew. Looking forward to next season. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Chris. Alrighty. There's about 90 of you here. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Whether you're still playing in week 18, whether you're not, I greatly appreciate you guys coming through, showing some love, as you guys typically do. If any of you guys have any questions, I'll be here for probably the next, I don't know, I started the stream at like 4:25. I think an hour is a pretty good set amount of time because, again, if you have any questions, let me know. I'll be here for the next 12 minutes answering them. But, yeah, I think we should be good to go. As the week progresses, I'm assuming we'll get more. Hopefully, okay, here's my only concern. You guys ready for it? Considering I'm a Los Angeles Rams fan, okay? And I have been since they moved to LA. Because, again, you got to support your local teams. My only concern is that McVay goes ghost radio silent this week on the status of his players. And the reason why I think there's a possibility of that is because McVay does not start his guys in the preseason. Because in games that don't matter, he doesn't start his players and he doesn't say anything about it. So I am concerned to an extent that if we go and we progress throughout the week and he doesn't say anything about his starters, there is a potential that by the time we get to Sunday morning, we won't know. Because he just doesn't want to tell anybody about his strategy. So we'll have to wait and see. But for right now, hopefully we'll get more information on the status of these players. Bruce Cowdrey sent in a super chat. Thank you, Bruce. Hope you're doing well, Bruce, by the way. Full PPR says Melton, Dortch, or Robinson for the flex. Thanks for your help. As it currently stands, I think Robinson is going to be based on whether or not the Rams fire up their team. If I had to, okay, so this is what I'll say. If we're going to be in a scenario in which Jaden Reed is not active, I like the idea of playing Melton or Dortch. I would probably, let's see how the week progresses. As long as you have all three of the options available, that's good. But in a full PPR, I think the safest play is probably Greg Dortch. He has the most rapport out of all the receivers on that team with Kyler Murray. He's done it last season. He's done it earlier this season, and he did it last week. So if I was to, in a full PPR, objectively say which one's the safest play and the one that probably is the one that I would trust the most, it's probably Greg Dortch as of right now. Thank you for the question. Appreciate it. All right, let's see here really quickly. We took care of that. Is there any other questions that I missed? Brian French said Hall White. Oh, okay, I think Brian French was answering somebody else's question. Okay, we're good to go there. We're good to go there. Awesome. Perfect. All right, cool. Perfect. Zach Miles says, I tied in championship game, but they gave me the win because the commissioner didn't set the rules for championship game, only playoff rounds. But I was one game ahead of him. What will you do? So you tied straight up, identical points. What is the tiebreaker of that? That's tough. Okay, so this is what I'll tell you I won't do. I will not allow the tiebreaker to be bench points at all in any circumstance. I would probably literally just call it co-champions. As lame as that may sound, if you literally tied, and if you, let's say for example, you both have 127 points flat even, tied end score in week 17, I'd call it co-champions. I'd split the money 50-50 and I'd break it like that. Because I think if you go to any other scenario, let's say you go bench points, one of the guys could have 4 quarterbacks on his bench and he wins and it's over. You could have a scenario where he just racked up a bunch of defenses on his bench because he was just trying to play matchups. That's a disservice to him, and he didn't know that was going to be the tiebreaker, right? Because there wasn't any rules set. So I wouldn't go to bench points. I definitely wouldn't push it to week 18 because there are going to be players that are not going to be fully active in week 18. So I wouldn't go in that scenario. I would just say the best way to go about it is literally break it as co-champs down the middle. Keep it moving. Now, if they gave you the outright title, Zach, because you had the better regular season record, I could understand that. I would also say that if you want to, you could do most points scored. So whatever team has the most points scored all season, regular season and playoffs, they are technically the best team between the two at the end of the year. So if that helps, maybe you can go ahead and push it that direction. But again, there wasn't any rule set. So I guess it's a matter of like your commissioner or your whole league voting on how they want to, kind of potentially, determine the winner. I think if you want to determine an outright winner and you don't want to tie, I think the best way to go about it is who scored the most points for all season long between those two teams. Done. Hopefully that helps, Zach, but maybe it doesn't. We'll see. Thank you for the question anyway. That's always interesting, man. That's always an interesting go about it for sure, without a doubt. Okay, now that was taken care of, we're good to go there. We're good to go there. All right. So, any other questions? If there's nothing question-wise, I'm going to head out, and I'll be back tomorrow with wide receiver rankings in a top probably 36 to 40 capacity. Same time tomorrow, I'll probably be on 4:30 to 5 p.m. PST, somewhere around that range. I'll stream for another hour tomorrow. Answer any questions you guys have in regards to any positions. We'll obviously have more information in regards to who's starting and who's not by the time we get tomorrow. We'll get more information regarding injuries because tomorrow, Wednesday, is the first day that teams actually officially practice. Or actually, technically, teams who play on Saturday have their first official practice today, but there's only 4 teams playing on Saturday. Nonetheless, Zach Miles followed up, said yes, 155.5 apiece, but yes, split the money. I had best record, and he had the most points all season. But he mad because they gave me first. Damn. I honestly think, yeah, if it's me, I'd be pissed too. I think most points really determines who's the best team or who's the best fantasy kind of player in that scenario. Like there's leagues that I play in. They're not technically best ball because the lineups aren't auto set, but it's a matter of like we're playing 17 weeks. Whichever team scores the most points wins outright. There's no matchups. There's no playoffs. It's whoever has the most points by the end of the season. So congratulations. Either way, you're champion. But yeah, I would be pissed too if I was that guy, to say the very least. All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead, close out today's stream. If you have any questions, swing on by tomorrow. I'm going to go ahead and cue the music. Perhaps you can hear it. And until tomorrow, I'll see you guys. Peace. Saw a question that just popped up at the end here. I don't know if Chase Hart is still here, but Chase, if you can hear me, I'm more than happy to answer the question. So your question is, says, sorry for spamming, no problem. PPR league right now, starting Jefferson and Diggs with Pittman and Moore on my bench. Do I need to change? Yeah, honestly, I'd feel very comfortable benching Diggs. Considering Nick Mullins probably plays for the Vikings, I play Jefferson there pretty comfortably. Last two games with Nick Mullins had 10 targets each, and obviously Jaron Hall was an absolute disaster at the beginning of last week. But for right now, I'd probably end up playing Jefferson alongside of DJ Moore if it's my team. That's the direction I'm leaning in. I mean, in a PPR, maybe it is Pittman. We'll see by tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll have wide receiver rankings, but for sure it's Jefferson, and I for sure want to play Pittman or Moore over Diggs. So yes, we're going to make a change. Anyway, thank you very much. Have a good day. See you guys.